Hello, everybody. This is a special edition of the practice room, and with me today is Tania Yager. She is a brilliant puppet artist and has kind of a varied background, not just in puppetry, but in so many, very many things. And we'll talk about all of that, or as much of it as you want. But thank you for taking the time to talk with me today.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited.
So Tanya, tell us a little bit about what got you into puppet making and puppet manipulating and all that stuff.
Well, without going into just, kind of like the whole childhood, background, because there is a childhood background. So I'll spare you that for another time when we have a glass of wine and we're finished with our project.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
um, I think, you know, kind of what really got me into it is I've been a performer all my life. I've been in theater all of my life. You know, vocal studies and acting and directing and a lot of dance. And I had a dance company for a while, but then had a really bad accident and was hit by a car and it totally messed up my knee. And
Oh,
it ended like a 17-year long dance career.
right.
And I did a lot of mourning after that. And I thought, you know what? Puppetry has always kind of been in the background. It's something that I've always loved. And I thought, I'm gonna pursue that because that's something that I can do regardless of how my body feels. If I'm feeling super great, I can get up and move and manipulate these puppets in a really big way.
Hmm.
If I'm not feeling really great, I can sit and construct and manipulate puppets behind a shadow screen just using my arms. And so it was something that, even though it is a really physical type of job, I can control the physicality of it, which is what I needed at the time that I was
Right.
recovering.
Yeah.
And I just found that I loved it so much that I was like, even when I kind of had the notion and maybe the ability to return back to dance as my kind of creative expression, I just have, you know, decided not to.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to, it's going to be in some sort of performative manner with, um, manipulating, a puppet.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, or, just cutting a rug on a dance floor at, a
And just
random
let it
wedding.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because sometimes you just
So,
gotta dance, you
yeah,
know?
exactly. So I save it for, around my house and my real creative juices go into puppetry now.
How did puppetry kind of come onto your radar? Because I think maybe lots of people have some, not maybe not misconceptions, but have a very singular idea of
Mhm.
what puppetry is, and it's sort of related to kind of circus performing, or like it's relegated to like freak show type of
Mhm.
things. And how did it kind of first of all come into your radar, and then how did you discover that it was more, so much more than that, and could be
Right.
avant-garde and really expressive and really intimate and sensitive and all the things.
Yeah. Well, I think I kind of always understood that it could be multiple different things because I was exposed to definitely some puppetry as a child. I mean, I was a kid of the 80s, and so, I grew up on things like Sesame Street and all the Jim Henson stuff, but then also looking at, just things like, fantasy films, certainly the darker, more aspects that Jim Henson was going for in things like Dark Crystal and
Mm-hmm.
Labyrinth. And then when I was in eighth grade, I was fortunate enough to go to a fine arts magnet school, and I got a whole semester of puppetry and was introduced to shadow puppetry and other types of puppetry, stick and rod puppetry, at a very, very early age. So I knew that there was different types. What I didn't know is how seriously the rest of the world not the United States, but the rest of the world takes puppetry.
Yeah.
And so it was into adulthood, kind of that I was looking at that. And I certainly think things like stop motion animation, I mean, uh, it has two different groupings, right? It's in the animated grouping, but it's also in the puppetry grouping. And they're very much manipulating puppets.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always had a love for that. And I think just, as the internet was getting more and more creative people, like, putting things on it. And then I was seeing friends of mine, uh, perform down in San Diego, and, caught on to some of what they were doing, and just seeing things that were blowing my mind,
Yeah.
and just decided, this is so versatile that I'm just going to do this. I'm going to jump in.
Which is your
Um,
favorite style?
I love shadows. I absolutely adore shadows, and I feel most at home with them. Um, but I also love kind of tabletop puppetry.
Mm-hmm.
I love it because I am um, a thespian at heart, and I'm an actress, and I like being seen.
Yeah.
There are times when I don't want to be seen, and so being behind the screen is really lovely for that. And then there's times when I'm like, no, I want you to understand what goes into doing what I'm doing. And I want you to be so captivated by what I'm doing that actually you see me at first, but then I completely disappear, because
Right.
there's a wow moment there.
Yeah.
Where I've had people come up to me, and I think the biggest compliment that you can give a puppeteer is like, I know you were on stage. You were on stage and you were manipulating these puppets. And then, at a certain point, I was so involved in what the story was, or what the puppets were doing, and I wasn't looking at you at all, and you disappeared. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, yeah.
Just sort
And
of in
then,
plain sight. Yeah.
yeah. And then it really is a magic act. It really is. And then I love that, kind of like, hey, I every once in a while I would look up from what was happening and being engrossed, and go and remember, oh gosh, she's right there. And then I would watch you so intently, watching your puppet, and like
Yeah.
doing whatever it was, and like how engrossed you were. And it's like, I call those people the true watchers, because
Yeah.
they're really observing everything, and they're seeing how engrossed I am and appreciating that, which is
Right.
awesome.
But you like even in that kind of like the stage when you have right, you build yourself a box, right?
Mm-hmm.
Similar like this, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
here in our little boxes, and then you decide as the maker, as the creator and the storyteller, you decide to kind of how to draw all of the attention like straight
Right.
into that little world.
Right.
And but then you still have the agency upon the audience member. I can choose to kind of zoom out and take in the actual big picture,
Mm-hmm.
and your body, and the way that your body is sort of extended into the object that is being manipulated in front of me. And I think it's
Yeah,
really, yeah, it's really, really
exactly.
beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah.
It could be really moving. Like I hadn't really beyond the old Burl Ives, Christmas, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, all of those old stop motions, or like you were saying, Sesame Street for an American, it feels like puppetry is definitely relegated towards children,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of a fantasy play. But I had started to kind of like go back further in time, and we talked a little bit about this, but Lottie Reiniger, right? That
So
she
amazing.
is so amazing and so important, and we started to dive into her world, and like
Yeah.
did she have an impact in your worldview of puppetry, or?
Not at first. I didn't
Mhm.
I didn't know a lot about Lottie. Like,
Yeah.
she was somebody that I heard about when I first kind of like, started doing research.
Hmm.
And honestly, I came to her late. It's not like I saw her work and was like, I want to do this. It was like I wanted to do it and then stumbled upon her work and literally almost put my tools down. When I saw her stuff, there's some people's stuff that I just go, I'm done. I'm done for the day. Like, what am I even doing?
The best has already been done, and it was done in 1924. Like, you can't. What?
and yet that's so not true.
Right.
The best is still like every day getting done by all of these different folks. I mean, if you haven't checked out, Larry Reed with Shadowlight Productions and Manual Cinema, like, I'm like, just stop it. Just stop it. They're so talented. They're so talented. It's really quite brilliant. So
yeah, I mean, I think what I sort of respond to in shadow puppetry, and then also in sort of the shadow plus animation that Lottie does, is that it feels both ancient and modern kind of simultaneously, right?
Yeah.
That even something that is done almost 100 years ago now, it still feels really, really kind of current and artistically super interesting, and there's like a lot to discover in that. But I think also that's just what the artistry sort of lends itself to. It is an ancient, it's an old pastime.
Oh yeah.
So you're taking this tradition and this history, and it can be reconceived as we kind of go on in age and have our own histories and our own perspectives.
And I find that just as a human being, those are the things that I love the most about life, is how something that already has an ancient history, and then the modern person is putting their interpretation, their spin, their growing. It's something that I love about. I mean, you could say that about anything really, and I think about the things that I love. Things like I'm also an aromatherapy teacher, and so working with scents and working with oils and resins and things like that. Like, part of the reason I love it is because you can go back to biblical times and see some of that work being done, or winemaking, something like that,
or opera.
Right?
Yeah.
Like all different types of and forms of theater. And the thing that I do love about puppetry is puppetry and mask work was really the first form, of theater. It was the first form of, man making himself something different and showing someone else. And I think that's super exciting.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about your work with operas. And so you had done a little bit before this literally just fell into your lap.
Yep. Yeah. And thank you again for that. That's, great opportunity. I love it. I had said a while ago, several years ago, that this was the type of work that I want to be doing. That it's theatrical puppetry, and I think that it elevates the art form and goes so lovely together, and so I'm super excited about continuing on with that. But the first real time when I was able to like really get my feet wet was I was contacted by Lynn Jennings with the San Diego Guild of Puppetry, and she said, "Hey, I know this composer who reached out, and they need someone. They need probably 3 someones to take over and do all the puppetry." And of course, the deadline was again something ridiculous.
Yeah, we don't like to languish in things. Just get it done, move on. Next
but
time.
it was super doable. It was super doable. And I was really excited about it. So the opera that we did was He Portorino, which is, I believe, Maori. In the Maori language is the magic flute. And it was a originally scored and composed piece by Celeste Oram, who is a native of New Zealand and had moved to San Diego. And since then, I think has moved to San Francisco. And she is a lovely human being. She has written a piece that I mean, it was so beautiful to work on. It was so breathtaking to work on. Going into rehearsal every day, I would go in even if we didn't have a puppetry thing going on. And I would just sit and listen, not only to get the feel of the music and things like that so that it could inform what I was doing, but just because that music was like, I likened it to just going in every day and having my heart cracked open and sunshine flooding in. It just was gorgeous.
That is the best way to describe Celeste's music.
Yeah.
It's transcendent and yeah.
Totally. And what she did with that, there was this beautiful combination of kind of classical, I guess, symphonic, type of work, and then these very traditional Maori, tribal musical instruments, and lots of noise making, and I just love that. Love that. I thought that was super, super fun. Yeah. And so I was the lead puppeteer on that, and it just, it really changed kind of my perspective of, what I could be doing and what I'd like to do. And it was amazing. Yeah. It was truly amazing. I'll tell you this really funny story.
Do it.
It was myself, Lynn Jennings, and one of my puppetry partners, Ray Hernandez, who worked on that together. And Ray and I walked in. Lynn, I don't think could be there the first day. Ray and I walked in, and they said, okay, well, we just want to play a little bit of music for you and have, these individuals sing, and you can kind of get a feel for what we're doing, and let us know, what you think, and would you be interested? Are you still interested in doing this? So they do their thing, and me and Ray's jaw are on the floor, and they look at us kind of like, well, how do you feel about that? And I just looked at him and I said, hey, look, if you want us to wiggle a couple of dolls and shadows and pieces of paper behind a screen while you do this, we're happy to do that for you.
Fine.
Like, I just was like,
we're good.
What? Yeah, I'll come and manipulate some paper behind a screen while you're doing this, like, amazing. Like, I felt so blessed, but so small at the same time, because I don't think any one of us actually understand the impact or the power I think that our own talent has. But I just was like, hey, I just play with paper. Cool.
Like, I draw and I cut things out, and
right, yeah. And I know it's so much more than that. It feels like so much more than that. Yeah. But then, just like I said, the absolute stunning music just was, it just took me over, and I just it was verklempt.
For us, it was like a no-brainer to go with shadow puppetry, and Jonathan had seen that that performance that you gave with
nice
Celeste, and he was like, we should probably call her. We should find out who this woman was, and we should call her. And so we're very lucky and thankful that you said sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we think that, like, I don't know. I feel like that using something that is so small, right? It's like it's to express an art form that is so big, and is so encapsulates so much ego and so much, we have to sing to the back of the house. That for us in thinking about what to do in this time where singing in groups is probably not safe, what can we do that can really, really express the smallness and the minutia and the little subtle nuances of movement and expression, and using recorded technology for us to be able to explore smallness and to allow our egos to kind of be completely left aside, that my body, Jonathan's body, who cares, that we can just sort of make sounds. And I don't know, I'm really, we're still like in this sort of natal stage. But I'm so excited. I'm really, really excited to get to work with you, and we are so grateful to have you on this project with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm thrilled. Like I said, I think one of the first times that we talked, like anytime somebody says opera, I will literally put down what I'm doing and go, okay, tell me more. Tell me more.
I'm listening.
Yeah. So if anybody says symphony or opera, I'm just like, yeah, tell me more about that. I will stop what I'm doing and listen.
Yeah. And I think it'll invite people to listen a little differently to opera itself, right? That it can be more than the in your face. It's not always about the high notes. There's a lot of nuance that maybe doesn't quite translate to like a live big audience in a big opera house. And so so we're grateful, and thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome. Thank you. I'm so glad you guys looked for me.
God, we could go on in this like you're amazing. No, you're amazing. I love you. This is great.
Okay, we'll stop now.